15 Creepiest Serial Killers Ever. Numerous serial killers have been exposed to the world. There is an unending list of individuals who have done crimes that are considered to be inhumane. There are, however, a few individuals who have genuinely taken the limelight away from the heinous crimes that have been committed against humanity. Here is a list of the 20 most heinous and notorious serial killers that the world has ever witnessed. Number 15. The Killer of the Zodiac. This individual is a well-known serial killer. Through a series of taunting letters that he sent to the Bay Area press, the murderer came up with this name for himself. Only one of the 4 ciphers that he gave was successfully deciphered, even though he left them to be deciphered. Between the late 1960s and the early 1970s, the murderer was active in the state of California. His most recent letter stated, "I am 37 years old, and the San Francisco Police Department is 0. He asserted that he had killed 37 people, but the newspapers only confirmed that he had killed 7. Currently, the case file is still open. Number 14. Donald Henry Gaskins, also known as the Hitchhiker's murderer. Gaskins asserts that he was responsible for the deaths of between 80 and 90 individuals by torturing and mutilating them. He began his murderous career in 1969 when he began picking up hitchhikers on the roadways that ran along the coast of the American South. The confession was made to the authorities by a criminal accomplice who had observed him killing 2 young lads. He was first given a sentence of death, but it was later changed to life in jail without the possibility of parole. Gaskins became the only guy in history to have ever been responsible for the death of a person who was on death row. He added another murder to his record. Number 13. The Human Dracula by Tsutomu Miyazaki. In addition to that, he is one of the most well-known serial killers. The heinous deeds he committed earned him other names. The Little Girl Murderer, the Otaka Murderer, and Dracula Miyazaki were a few of the films that caught their attention. One of the reasons for this is that he kidnapped young girls, murdered them, and then engaged in sexual acts with their bodies after they had been dead. During one instance, he not only consumed the victim's hand, but also drank the blood that she had just given him. As trophies, he also saved other portions of the body. Number 12. Ted Bundy, also known as the Reckless Necrophile. Ted Bundy was a serial killer, kidnapper, rapist, and necrophile who made his home in the United States. He admitted to the murder of 30 women and operated in several places across the United States. He went back to areas where crimes had been committed and engaged in sexual actions with the deceased. There were at least 12 victims that Bundy beheaded, and he stored the skulls of those victims as trophies in his apartment. Bundy was executed by an electric chair in 1989 when he was 42 years old. His defense attorney remarked that Ted exemplified the precise essence of a cruel and wicked person. Number 11. The White Tecapel Murder, often known as Jack the Ripper. The actual perpetrators of the murders or killers were never found, because the victims were missing organs. And, judging by the process, the perpetrator appeared to have prior experience in surgical procedures. The name was conceived. Between the years 1888 and 1891, Jack the Ripper, who was later thought to be a single individual, was responsible for the murders of female prostitutes in the slums of London. Number 10. The Beast, a film by Luis Garavito. The Colombian is perhaps one of the most heinous serial killers in the world. Media outlets have also referred to him as the Beast, which is another name for La Bestia. He admitted to taking the lives of 147 young boys, as well as torturing and raping them. However, it is thought that the number is greater than 300. The jury decided that he was responsible for 139 charges, which would result in a sentence of 1853 years in jail. However, according to the legislation of Colombia, the maximum sentence is 30 years, which is what he was given in 1999. Because of his cooperation and good attitude, he might be released earlier than expected. Number 9. Alexander Picheshkin, famously known as the Chessboard Killer. The Chessboard Killer and the Bits Apart Maniac were 2 other names that were used to refer to him. Those he targeted were homeless males, and he used vodka to entice them to come to his domicile. It is thought that he was responsible for the deaths of 49 individuals, most of them caused by repeated blows to the head with a hammer, and he later placed a vodka bottle into the gaping skull wound. In the beginning, he disclosed that his objective was to kill 64 individuals and finish the amount of squares on a chessboard. Number 8. Andrei Chikatilo, also known as the Butcher. According to Andrei, The Butcher of Rostov. When I used my knife, it brought me a sense of psychological relief. I am well aware that I must be annihilated. It was a natural blunder that I made. Throughout the period between 1978 and 1990 in Russia, he was responsible for the sexual assault, murder, and mutilation of 53 women and children. He was taken into custody in 1992, and in 1994, he was given the order to be executed by a firing squad and executed. Number 7. The Angel of Death, also known as Charles Edmund Cullen. Cullen was employed as a nurse at several hospitals. Nevertheless, he was frequently terminated from his positions due to his suspicious behavior at a number of these facilities. Between the years 1984 and 2003, he admitted to killing 40 elderly patients in the state of New Jersey. It was through the use of unapproved medication that he was able to cause the deaths of his patients. Number 6. The Sorcerer, Ahmad Surajay. A cattle farmer from Indonesia admits to being responsible for the deaths of 42 females and girls between the years 1986 and 1997. He used to bury them up to his waist as part of the ritual that he performed. A sugarcane field was the location where the bodies were discovered, and the heads of the deceased were facing his house. He believed that this would give him more authority. In 2008, Surajay was given a sentence of death at the hands of a firing squad. Number 5. Patrick Wayne Kearney, often known as the Killer of Trash Bags. Between the years 1975 and 1977, he was active and was also known as the Trash Bag Killer. Even though Kearney had a high IQ, he admitted to killing 32 homosexual individuals after he was apprehended. As a result of Kearney's practice of dumping their bodies beside highways in California and wrapping them in trash bags, the moniker was given to the practice. Even though he was found guilty of 21 killings, he was given a sentence of life in prison upon his confession. Number 4. Dennis Rader, the murderer of BTK members. Wichita, Kansas was the location of 10 murders committed by Dennis Rader between the years 1974 and 1991. He also used the moniker BTK, which stood for bind, torture, kill, to send letters to the police in which he taunted them regarding their actions. Because Rader admitted to his crimes, he is currently serving 10 consecutive life sentences, with the earliest potential parole date being February 26, 2180. Number 3. Known as the acid bath murderer, John George Hay. In the 1940s, John George Hay, who was also known as the acid bath murderer, was a serial killer who committed his crimes. Even though he falsely claimed to have killed 9 individuals, he was found guilty of murdering 6 of them. In his capacity as a skilled con artist, he used his charm and cunning to entice wealthy individuals into a warehouse, where he then proceeded to murder them. After that, he would use sulfuric acid to disintegrate their bodies, and then he would fake documents to sell their belongings and collect their savings from their lives. He received the death sentence and was executed by hanging in the year 1949. Number 2. As the murderer of the Casanova, Paul Knowles. Knowles, who is also known as the Casanova Killer, utilized his charisma to successfully convince his victims to believe him, and then he went on to kill them. In total, he was responsible for the deaths of 18 people, although the number could be higher. Men, women, and children were among those who fell victim to him. The man from Florida was eventually put to death by an FBI agent in 1974 while he was attempting to flee from the authorities. Number 1. The Motorway Killer, William Bonin. Additionally, Bonin was referred to as the Motorway Killer. From 1979 to 1980, he was responsible for the sexual assault, torture, and murder of at least 21 young men. In South California, Bonin would dispose of their dead by dumping them beside motorways. In 1996, he was put to death by having a fatal injection administered to him after being found guilty of 14 of his murders. He continued to exhibit his nasty side when he was serving his sentence in prison. So this is the end of our today's video. Do you like it? Kindly give your valuable response in our comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting and informative videos.